As the global economic landscape shifts, businesses are increasingly looking to diversify their supply chains and reduce their dependency on any single country. And this trend has been accelerated by the ongoing strategic rivalry between the US and also China, and prompting companies to seek new opportunities and partnership. And one such opportunity lies in the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, or SEZ, groundbreaking initiatives aimed at fostering economic integration and also innovation between Malaysia and Singapore. And this SEZ promises to be catalyst for growth, attracting investment and creating new opportunities for businesses and communities on both sides of the border. And to help us understand the potential impact and significance of this initiative, we are joined by Dr. Chua Hak, the Regional Co-Head of Macro Research at Maybank Investment Banking Group. Dr. Chua, thank you so much for being with us today. And first of all, maybe how do you foresee the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone SEZ impacting, especially in the regional economy, maybe in the next 5 years?
Right. Well, I think it finally makes a lot of sense, right? Because on one side, Singapore is grappling with constraints on labor, on energy, on land, and of course, Johor has ample of that, affordable land, and then especially on the energy side, and plenty of water. So it makes a lot of sense to integrate economies more closely, and I think especially now pushed by what's happening between the US and China, MNCs are looking for a new location, China plus one, and I think Malaysia fits in quite nicely, especially if the strengths of both sides, strengthens the case for that relocation. So we're already seeing an investment boom. We're seeing private and total investment in Malaysia growing at double digits, in the second quarter, and it looks like it's going to probably stay that way in the second half. Johor is probably going to grow closer, I think, now to 5 to 6% growth, given the heavy investments that's coming in. And we've seen a big pickup in property activities, especially for industrial land. We've seen a data center boom. So I think all that is coming in quite nicely, and I think it's good that SEZ comes at a time to seize this opportunity when MNCs are looking for to diversify away from China.
As mentioned by Menteri Besar Johor, three main components that supporting what's being done right now is Johor's stability, unbeatable connectivity, and also strong policy support and alignment. How do you see this initiative, especially helping industries? What kind of industries that you look forward, that you think will benefit, especially in this SEZ?
So clearly the manufacturing, the industrial property space will be one big winner, because it's clear that the constraints in Singapore is there, and it's become too expensive, and there are companies as well that are looking to relocate and set up an alternate plant. So in that sense, that will be clearly one area where Johor can benefit, particularly in the electronic space or petrochemical space, but also clearly now the data centers, where there's ample water, renewable energy. That's one area. But I think even the services side, I think the tourism potential is tremendous, and there are also spillover benefits from the Singapore side. So if more five-star hotels can be built here, we already see some limitations, more recreational facilities, that could also be quite a big draw. As it is, we have a lot of Singaporeans especially crossing the border to shop, and to spend their weekends in Johor. And then there are also opportunities, of course, in healthcare and education. So I think it spans a whole wide range of sectors.
I would like to bring our conversation to challenges. Of course, we can't run from it, of course. And maybe what kind of challenges? Like Prime Minister said, talent pipeline. Experts, especially on E&E, and Malaysia is short of like around 60,000 of experts in semiconductor. How do you foresee in terms of challenges in developing SEZ at the same time to fulfill the demand by the investors?
So I think talent and the labor supply shortage is something that comes out a lot in the discussions of investors. and it takes time, right, to grow your own local talent.
Yeah.
So I think one missing piece for me in this puzzle is really there needs to probably be some relaxation of the foreign employment visas for those who want to work in the special economic zone. I think if that can be relaxed, and I think that will create a bigger pool of available talent that firms can draw upon, you know, because if you want them to invest, you must be able to have that pool, you know.
Yeah.
As it stands, I think when you look around this country, I don't think we have that pool. It may be 200, 300,000 people. So I think that's something we hope there'll be announced, you know, when the agreement signs. But I think you need that piece, whether it's allowing Singaporeans or foreign nationals to be based here, but can work in Singapore, or they can work in Malaysia. They can pay their tax rates accordingly. But I think that creates a whole, you know, ecosystem that can support all these initiatives.
One more, I think, in terms of challenges that to the companies, especially that maybe that they might face when diversifying their supply chains, especially when they are away from China. How do you foresee this? Yeah.
So that situation is still fluid, you know, because depending on the outcome of the US presidential elections as well. Right?
Of course.
I mean, if Trump does come into power, he's already said that he will put on a 60% tariff rate on China and possibly a 10 to 20% on the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
And that includes Malaysia. So then the question is, will that affect the kind of flow investments, FDI, and still, you know, the new supply chains coming to Malaysia? So that's one issue. It's unclear, but because Trump has already said that he will also target third countries that may be conduits, you know, to try to circumvent the tariffs, you know, that is placed on China. We've already seen the case for the solar panel sectors, where America has now imposed duties not just on China, but also now from Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. And that, I won't be surprised if he does that for China EV cars that are produced here in Malaysia as well. And that's being expanded. They're also looking at what we call the foreign product rule in the US, and if your local, you know, content consists of stuff that's made from Chinese technology, that may also face restrictions in terms of exports to the US. We also see some issues on the China side, because China is actually seeing quite a big outflow of FDI from China. Right? Chinese companies are expanding abroad. Right? They are also trying to create alternative locations. But I think from the regulators may be also trying to clamp down on that, and may be easier, maybe harder for them to take the money out, you know, to invest in manufacturing space, particularly, for example, for electric vehicles. So I think almost about 25% of those FDI approvals in Malaysia is from China. And so that may be a setback if it's much harder for the Chinese companies to take their money to invest outside. So that's something to watch as well. So there are many things that's happening on that front, and it really depends, you know, this game that the US and China is playing out.
It's very dynamic, Okay. Dr. Chua, I want to bring back our discussion to labour market. How do you think that SEZ will influence the labour market in both Johor and also Singapore, complement each other?
So unfortunately, when you look at the labour market as it stands today, it's rather one-sided. It's about more Johor people commuting to Singapore, right? Exceeding 300,000 a day, right? And there's not many flow the other way, right? Most for Singaporeans who come here are really to shop or to, you know, have a holiday. So I think the SEZ should think about how it can make it more two ways, right? You also want a pool of people, you know, that's from there that may be interested in setting up businesses to live here, to retire here, you know, and to work here, you know, perhaps part-time, perhaps full-time. But I think the current visa immigration scheme doesn't allow for that kind of flexibility, right? So then also then you create more businesses who are willing to invest here simply because there's also a pool here. So it's that whole ecosystem. So my wish is that the SEZ will come out with some kind of structure and scheme that will encourage more two-way flows of labor, and it's just not being so lopsided at this point in time.
And of course, it needs a strong policy. And how can policymakers ensure that this SEZ will influence and also promotes sustainable economic growth, especially in this region?
So now it's up to I mean, Johor has already seen a growing demand, right, for data centers. You know, they consume a lot of energy, they consume a lot of water.
Yeah.
So it's come to the point where, you know, I think Malaysia can be a bit selective about what kind of data centers comes in.
Yeah.
Make sure that new investments are powered more by renewable energy, you know, whether it's by solar and so on, because that will also be more green, and you want a nice environment anyway, you know, for people to live in Johor. So, you know, and the same with the building standards, same with other alternatives. You know. The fact that these are all new, and there are already a lot of new technology for data centers, how can they be done in a more efficient way? You know? I think Malaysia can set those high standards, you know, that meet those green goals.
Dr. Chua, one of the things that I think we need to highlight is in terms of what kind of measure that can be taken, especially to attract the FDI into the SEZ. And of course, Malaysia government has announced some special rates and also tax incentives.
That's right.
How do you see this will boost and to create confidence to the investors to come to this special economic zone? Yeah.
So I think the tax breaks are very generous. You know, that lower taxes for residents, but also, you know, zero tax for family offices. You know? So I think that's just one pillar of the set of structure that firms will consider. One other part, I think, is probably in the domain more of the central bank. You know, that maybe it's worth revisiting some of the rules that for foreigners that want to open bank accounts, that want to operate here, to conduct transactions, to change you know, currencies and all that, and to invest outside. Those rules may need to be revisited. You know?
Okay.
So I mean, the big difference with big financial centers out there, London or Singapore or Dubai and all that, is that you have pretty much very limited, I mean, pretty relaxed, hardly any capital controls, right? You can take money in and out, you can open a bank account easily.
Yeah.
I think there are still quite a bit, and maybe old archaic restrictions on foreigners you know, on the financial side. So maybe now with these incentives, it's time to revisit and see whether there's scope to, you know, remove some of the unnecessary hurdles you know, that may impede, you know, I think the creation of a successful financial center. So it needs to be worked hand in hand. It's just not about taxes. It needs the whole, you know, structure and what kind of business can set up to support the whole you know, financial center in the system.
Yeah. And of course, one of the critical sector or that need to be done is about infrastructure developments, because this will boost the confidence among the investors. What are the key infrastructure developments that needed to support SEZ success? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think fortunately a lot of infrastructure and roads are already pretty set up, but there's always an improvement on that side.
Improvement areas.
But clearly for data centers, you would need, you know, more subsea cables to connect with the rest of the world, you know, and using the latest, you know, technology. You will need also, you know, more facilities here. I mean, everything currently there are actually a lack of 5-star hotels, for example, in this whole area, right, to support, you know, some of these firms to come in. And also, clearly, the energy grid. Needs to upgrade, right? Because you want more, you know, renewable energy. There'll be high demands. There'll be on energy. So there's still quite a bit to be done, you know, to build up the infrastructure. But that is what exactly that investors are looking at, and that is the one that can, you know, if the demand is there, can generate quite a strong investment boom in Johor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chua Hak,
Thank you, Horace.
Regional Co-Head of Macro Research at Maybank Investment Banking Group. I think that's all from now. See you in our next show.